So, is there really a disconnect between product and project managers and software engineers? Now, I know of hundreds of software engineers, probably even in the thousands, because we've met at different conferences, we've worked on projects, I've studied with some of them at high school and universities. And, there are the common complaints by software engineers that they feel underappreciated at work or they have boring projects, their managers suck, and stuff like that. Now, there's another contradictory opinion that states that software engineers are spoiled because they have lots of different opportunities for tons of different companies. They're in demand, meaning that they have lots of stuff that they can, do, lots of companies they can go to, and so on. Which also leads to low retention rate for most companies when it comes to software engineers, simply because, again, demand is high, lots of different opportunities, tons of different perks. Companies like, again, Google and the like, having their headquarters and lots of goodies basically being offered for those engineers, which isn't something that you're going to see normally for other types of businesses. Like, just imagine, I don't know, a store clerk or someone like this, or an accountant in a general company just receiving that kind of benefits and those opportunities and perks and, I don't know, business travels or whatever it is for their business. But again, that's another story. And everyone who is a software engineer, they know how complicated it actually may be, how many challenges there are, how the continuous learning takes place, and things like that. But indeed, there is sometimes a disconnect between managers and technical people, especially if the managers aren't really technical people. Now, the thing is that the main reason this is happening for the most part is the lack of background for most of those managers. And as I said, almost every single industry that's not software engineering or something that's in the high tech, like data scientists, DevOps, system administrators, almost everything else happens in a more outdated, conservative corporate environment, which is a lot more hostile to people as compared to software engineers, especially when it comes to startups and fast-growing companies or some of those tech giants looking for the top engineers out there. So it's just a different game. It's a different type of perception for different types of people. Another thing that's worth noting is that software engineers, by default, at least the vast majority of them, are actually passionate about their craft, which isn't something that you can normally say for most jobs, because according to different stats, over 70% of the people aren't really satisfied with their jobs, or they're just working a regular day job because they need to live somehow, but it's not like they love their job. And if you look around yourself, you probably have coffee shops or restaurants, or you order food from delivery places, you go to the store, all sorts of activities ran by people who are not necessarily passionate by what they do. There's not that much of a career growth or career opportunities. Shifts are weird, managers are weird as well. So it's a pretty poor symbiosis of what's going on. Where some people do have their kind of creative perks, which are not that well paid, such as, again, painters, actors, some singers, kind of enjoying what they do, but it's really a poorly paid job, so they're not fully satisfied by themselves either. So looking at this as a general problem means that most managers, coming from different backgrounds, they come with a different perception of their teams. And that different perception, again, means that those people are mostly ready to fight fights at work as compared to actually pushing people forward to deliver a greater good. And that's where the disconnect happens at some places. Of course, that's not a rule of thumb. It's just, statistically speaking, if there is a manager who has worked in, again, in a store or a supermarket, in a bar or something like that for 8 years or even 10 years joining the IT industry, they will have a different background. They would be used to different types of problems at work, different types of dynamics, different types of communication, which aren't necessarily present in a kind of software engineering company or a tech company that relies heavily on software engineering as a business. So a disconnect may happen, and it's something that should definitely be handled prior to the interview itself. So those people may actually not be hired even, or there should be a decent conversation that states the importance of kind of the IT department and the people and staff and career and everything else as a whole, so that managers can actually take place and step up as leaders, as someone who's helping out, and not someone who's kind of just yelling at people and trying to micromanage them and do other stuff. Another theory that I have is actually in the fact that uh, like some of the companies that have problems and also hire software engineers, they don't have that sort of mentality simply because the owners and the founders aren't used to working with software engineers. And if you think about some of the best companies out there to work for, those are companies like Google, like Facebook, like Microsoft, and others that are actually founded by technical people. Now, that's not to say that all great companies are founded by technical people or anything like that, but it means that a technical person is best suited to know what does it go into working with other technical people, what are the challenges, what are the common misconceptions and problems. So it almost comes naturally to just hire other technical people and also ensure that management is in place for those technical people. Meaning that if you're an accountant and if you hire accountants, you know exactly what they're dealing with, what are the common problems, what are the common tools to use with them, and so on. And if you're managing those people, you know how to do it in the most efficient manner. And if you're hiring managers for those people, you can again kind of transfer your knowledge to those folks so that they're most efficiently taken care of. Now, there are other companies with technical co-founders, like even Apple. You may have Steve Jobs and now Tim Cook, but then you have Steve Wozniak, who's also someone who's been kind of one of the founding members and someone who's capable enough to lead the technical people. So with that in mind, managers can definitely be suited. Technical managers are usually better suited to work with technical people, but not always. Great managers can take care of other aspects of the management work that's not necessarily related to working day to day with the team. Because as you know, there's resource management, team management, customer management, project management as just handling the project specifics, and other areas of management itself. So just working with those people isn't necessarily what needs to be done. And also, if you're a great manager by your own, then it means that dealing with software engineers shouldn't be a problem by itself. And then there's another last problem that I can point out. This is the fact that universities occasionally tend to teach business administration, MBAs, and other programs which are designed for managers to people who don't have career backgrounds at all. So there are lots of people who enter into management without actually having worked as a regular employee. So it gets a bit tricky because first off, they don't really have any management experience in practice. They don't have any team management experience. They don't have any work experience just working on a project. They don't have industry experience because they haven't worked in a specific organization. So it gets a lot more trickier when you kind of start a job as a manager without actually knowing what you manage, who you manage, how to manage, what are the specifics of the business cases, how you sell, how you market, and everything else, which is related to actually managing your team. So again, that's not to say that some people are better suited than others or whatnot, or some people simply don't have the opportunity to kind of start working a management job with software engineers, but it's a different dynamics and it requires being adjusted to that specific environment. So if software engineers sometimes work in companies where they aren't well understood or things like that, it could be the mismatch between the responsibilities of a manager and the responsibilities of a software engineer and how the symbiosis works. So with that in mind, of course, there should be mediation, there should be work with upper management, senior management, even the C-suites, and those managers and kind of deciding how to take it further. But otherwise, if you are a developer who's wondering, or if you're a manager who's kind of starting a new job or whatnot, feel free to, again, watch the video once again, see what may work for you, what are kind of the pros and cons, what are the benefits, what are some of the required traits to do that, and take it from there. If you have any other tips, let me know in the comments, and happy to share some recap in the coming videos.